Admiral Kang Tae stood on the observation deck of his ship and watched Earth spin slowly below. It was a beautiful morning. The sun was rising over Asia, painting the clouds in gold and orange. He smiled and touched the small photo in his pocket. His twin daughters, Sue and Hana, were waiting for him on Luna 7. He would see them in 3 days. For 50 years, humanity had been part of the Galactic Accord. 47 alien species had welcomed them into the stars. Well, welcomed was a strong word. Tolerated was more accurate. Humans were the youngest race in the galaxy. The other species looked at them like adults look at children who have wandered into an important meeting. But Tae did not mind. Peace was peace. His daughters were growing up in a universe without war. That was enough. On Luna 7, the Sol Academy held 12,000 human children. It was humanity's greatest pride. The best teachers, the most advanced technology, the brightest young minds. These children would become the diplomats and scientists who would prove humanity's worth to the galaxy. Dr. Park Yuna was visiting her son that week. Little June was only 6 years old, but he was already asking questions about alien biology. He wanted to be a scientist, like his mother. She had promised to take him to see the gardens on the east side of the colony. They grew flowers from 12 different planets there. Captain Baek Jin was running defense drills on Earth's orbital station when his sensors detected something strange. 3 ships had just appeared near Luna 7. They were Valori warships. The Valori were a proud, military species. They believed strength was the only truth in the universe. They had never liked humanity. Jin sent a message to the ships, asking them to identify their purpose. They did not respond. Then more ships appeared. 10, 20, 50. Jin's blood went cold. He sent an emergency alert to Admiral Tae. On Luna 7, the children were eating lunch when the sky turned dark. Massive shadows fell over the domes as Valori warships blocked out the sun. Teachers tried to stay calm. They told the children it was just a drill. Everything would be fine. Dr. Yuna was holding June's hand when she saw the first canister fall. It broke through the dome's outer shield, like it was made of paper. Green gas poured out. The smell was sweet, almost like flowers. Then the children started coughing. Yuna grabbed June and ran. But there was nowhere to go. The gas was everywhere. It filled every corridor, every room, every hiding place. She watched her son's face turn pale. She watched his small body shake. She held him against her chest and told him she loved him. She told him to close his eyes. She told him, Mommy was here. He stopped breathing 11 minutes later. Across the colony, 12,000 children died in the same way. Some in their beds, some in classrooms, some in their parents' arms. The gas was designed to target young humans. Adults survived. They were meant to survive. They were meant to watch. Admiral Tae received the news while his ship was still 2 days away from Luna 7. A junior officer told him. The young man could barely speak. Tae listened to every word. He did not cry. He did not shout. He simply stood there, very still, like a statue made of ice. His daughters were dead. Sue and Hana, gone. The Valori Empire released a statement 6 hours later. They claimed they had detected a deadly plague on Luna 7. They said the biological agent was a containment protocol. They said they had saved the galaxy from a terrible disease. They expressed their deepest regrets for the loss of life. It was a lie. Everyone knew it was a lie. There was no plague. The Valori had simply decided that humanity was growing too fast, too strong. They had decided to send a message. The Galactic Council held an emergency vote. Species from across the galaxy debated for 9 hours. In the end, they voted 31-16 to accept the Valori explanation. The matter was closed. No further action would be taken. Humanity was alone. That night, something changed on Earth. The crying stopped. The screaming stopped. A terrible silence fell over the planet. In government buildings, diplomats who had spent their careers building bridges with alien species quietly resigned. In military bases, soldiers who had trained for peacekeeping missions began asking for transfer to combat units. And deep beneath the mountains of Korea, in a bunker that had been sealed for 300 years, lights flickered on for the first time since the old wars. General O'Meara walked through the bunker's cold corridors. She was an old woman now, but her eyes were sharp and her mind was sharper. She had lost her entire family in the First Contact War, long before the peace. She had never trusted the aliens. She had spent her whole life preparing for this day. The bunker held secrets, weapons that humanity had promised to destroy, ships that humanity had promised to never build, soldiers trained in ways that the galaxy could not imagine. Mira reached the central command room and placed her hand on the activation panel. The system recognized her DNA. Screens lit up across the room, showing maps of the galaxy, fleet positions, enemy weaknesses. A young colonel named Yoon Han stood beside her. He commanded a unit called the Reapers. They were humanity's darkest soldiers, killers who could move through shadows like ghosts. "The council has made their decision," Han said quietly. "What are our orders?" Mira looked at the screens. She thought about 12,000 children who would never grow up. She thought about parents who would never hear their babies laugh again. "The galaxy knows one side of humanity," she said. "The friendly side. The curious side. The side that wants to make friends and explore the stars." She pressed a button. Across Earth, sealed doors began to open. Hidden ships began to wake. Soldiers began to receive new orders. Now they will meet the other side. 1 month passed after the massacre on Luna 7. The galaxy waited for humanity to do something. They expected angry speeches. They expected demands for new votes. They expected humans to beg for justice like they always did. Instead, there was silence. Human ambassadors stopped attending council meetings. Trade ships stopped arriving at alien ports. Communication channels went dark. It was like humanity had simply vanished. The Valori High Commander laughed when he heard the reports. "Humans were weak," he said. "They were hiding like scared animals. They had learned their lesson. The galaxy would not hear from them again." He was wrong. Dr. Park Yuna had not slept in 30 days. After burying her son, she had returned to her laboratory on Earth. She was a xenobiologist. She had spent her career studying alien life. Now she would use that knowledge for something else. The Valori were proud of their genetic purity. Their DNA had remained unchanged for 1,000,000 years. They saw this as strength. Yuna saw it as weakness. She worked alone in her lab, surrounded by screens showing Valori genetic codes. Her hands shook sometimes. She would see June's face in her mind. She would hear his voice calling for her. Then she would wipe her eyes and continue working. In 3 weeks, she created something terrible. A virus that could only affect Valori DNA. It would not kill them. That would be too quick. Instead, it would make them unable to have children. 1 generation, and the Valori would be extinct. She stared at the small container holding her creation. Her son had wanted to be a scientist. He had wanted to help people. What would he think of her now? She did not care. The Valori had killed her baby. They would pay. Admiral Tay received command of the First Vengeance Fleet on a cold morning in December. General Mira personally gave him the orders. She did not smile. Neither did he. The galaxy believed humanity had only 500 warships. That was what the records showed. That was what humanity had reported to the Galactic Council. The truth was different. For 300 years, since the First Contact War, humanity had been building in secret. Ships hidden in asteroid fields. Weapons, factories disguised as mining stations. Training facilities buried under dead moons. The Valori had 2,000 warships. Humanity had 8,000. Colonel Yoon Han briefed his Reapers in a dark room beneath Seoul. These men and women were not normal soldiers. They had been trained since childhood. They could kill in 100 different ways. They could move through enemy territory like shadows. They felt no fear. Some people said they felt nothing at all. Han looked at their faces. Most of them had lost someone on Luna 7. A brother, a sister, a child. They did not need motivation. They needed targets. The Valori believe we are weak, Han said. They believe we will cry and beg and accept their lies. They do not know us. They do not know what we can do. He pressed a button and a map appeared on the screen. Valori space stretched across a quarter of the galaxy. Hundreds of colonies. Dozens of military bases. One homeworld. We will take everything from them, Han continued. Slowly, painfully. They will watch their empire burn. They will know exactly why it is happening. And they will be unable to stop it. Tenyon that on. We have came and on. To on. And her senting to sentinane. Tua. The first human ship crossed into Valori space on a Tuesday afternoon. It was a small cruiser. Barely armed. The Valori Border Patrol detected it immediately. They sent 3 warships to intercept. The human cruiser did not run. It did not fire. It simply broadcast a message on every frequency, in every language known to the galaxy. The message was short. You killed our children. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will be no warning after this one. The Valori commander who received the message laughed and ordered his ships to destroy the cruiser. It took them 40 seconds. The small human vessel exploded in a ball of fire. The commander reported the incident to his superiors. He called it a pathetic attempt at intimidation. He said humans were too emotional to be a real threat. 3 days later, his colony went dark. The attack came without warning. Human ships appeared from nowhere, thousands of them, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Valori defense platforms were destroyed before they could fire a single shot. Ground bases were hit by precision strikes. Communication towers fell silent. In 6 hours, the colony was gone. Not destroyed. Exactly. Just empty. Every soldier dead. Every ship burning. Every weapon broken. The humans left one building standing. The colony's central communication hub. Inside, they left a message written on the walls in Valori blood. This is for Luna 7. This is only the beginning. Admiral Tay watched the reports come in from his command ship. Colony after colony fell to human fleets. The Valori were confused, terrified, unable to understand how this was happening. They had underestimated humanity for 50 years. Now, they were paying for that mistake. Tay should have felt satisfied. He should have felt justice. Instead, he felt empty. His daughters were still dead. No amount of Valori blood would bring them back, but he would keep fighting. Not for revenge. Not anymore. He would fight so that no human child would ever die like his daughters did. He would fight until the galaxy learned that humanity was not prey. He would fight until the stars themselves trembled at the name of Earth. The Galactic Council sent urgent messages to both sides, demanding peace talks. The Valori agreed immediately. They were desperate. General Mira read the Council's message and deleted it without responding. There would be no peace. Not yet. Not until the Valori understood what they had done. Not until they felt the same pain that 12,000 families felt every single day. The war had lasted 3 months now. Human fleets moved through Valori space like fire through dry grass. Nothing could stop them. Nothing could slow them down. The galaxy watched in horror as one of its oldest empires began to crumble. Captain Baek Jin stood on the bridge of his assault ship and studied the space station floating before him. This was Valori Station 9. According to intelligence reports, this was where the biological weapon had been created. The scientists who designed the gas that killed 12,000 children worked inside those metal walls. Jin had dreamed about this moment. He had imagined destroying the station in a ball of fire. He had imagined watching it burn. But Admiral Tae had other plans. Reapers are in position. Colonel Yunhan's voice came through the communication channel. His team had infiltrated the station 2 hours ago, moving through maintenance tunnels like ghosts. Jin nodded. Begin. The station's lights flickered. Emergency alarms started screaming. The Valori soldiers inside ran to their battle positions, expecting an attack from outside. They did not realize the enemy was already among them. Han's Reapers moved through the corridors with terrible speed. They did not use guns. Guns were loud. Instead, they used blades and hands and silence. Valori soldiers fell, without making a sound. Security teams were eliminated before they could send a single warning. In 40 minutes, the station belonged to humanity. Jin transported to the station personally. He walked through corridors filled with Valori bodies. The smell of blood was thick in the recycled air. He found Han, waiting for him in the central laboratory. The lab was filled with equipment. Tanks of green liquid lined the walls. This was where they had created the weapon. This was where the death of humanity's children had been born. 20 Valori scientists were kneeling on the floor, hands behind their heads. They were shaking with fear. Some of them were crying. Jin looked at them for a long time. He thought about the children on Luna 7. He thought about how they must have been scared too. He thought about little hands reaching for parents who could not save them. Seal them inside, Jin said quietly. Then disable life support. Han nodded. The scientists screamed and begged as the Reapers dragged them into a storage room and locked the door. The air recyclers shut down. Slowly, over the next several hours, they would suffocate, just like the children did. Jin did not stay to watch. He returned to his ship and ordered the fleet to move on. They left the station drifting in space. A metal tomb holding the bodies of monsters. On 12 Valori colony worlds, Dr. Yuna's virus was released. Ships flew low over cities, spraying invisible particles into the atmosphere. The Valori did not notice anything at first. They would not notice for months. By then, it would be too late. Yuna watched the reports from her lab on Earth. Mission successful, they said. Deployment complete. She had just condemned an entire species to extinction. She walked to her window and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, Valori children were playing and laughing, not knowing that they would be the last generation, not knowing that a human woman had decided their entire race should die. Her hands were shaking again. A message arrived from Admiral Tae, requesting her presence on his command ship. She packed a small bag and took a shuttle to join the fleet. She needed to see the war for herself. She needed to understand what she had done. When she arrived, Tae met her in his private quarters. He looked older than she remembered. The weight of command had carved deep lines into his face. "You created the virus," he said. It was not a question. "Yes. Do you regret it?" Yuna thought about her son. She thought about his small hand going cold in hers. She thought about the sound of his last breath. "No," she said. "Not yet." Tae nodded slowly. "I understand." The Galactic Council sent another message that day. They demanded humanity stop its attacks immediately. They threatened sanctions. They threatened blockades. They threatened military intervention. General Mira responded this time. She sent them a video file. The video showed Luna 7 after the attack. It showed bodies of children lying in corridors. It showed parents holding their dead babies and screaming. It showed faces frozen in fear and pain. It showed the truth that the council had decided to ignore. Then the video cut to a simple message. You voted to protect the Valori. You chose their side. Interfere with our justice, and you will share their fate. Attached to the message was a list of coordinates. Every council member's homeworld, every capital city, every government building. The council did not respond. No sanctions came, no blockades, no intervention. The galaxy had realized something important. Humanity was not asking for permission anymore. The Valori High Command held an emergency meeting. Their fleets were scattered, their colonies falling, their people terrified. They had no way to stop the human advance. One general suggested surrender. He was executed for cowardice. Another suggested using their own biological weapons against Earth. But their scientists warned them that humanity would respond with something worse. The humans had weapons the Valori could not imagine. Weapons hidden for centuries. Weapons that could crack planets and burn stars. In the end, the High Command decided to fortify their home world and wait. Perhaps the humans would get tired. Perhaps they would show mercy. They did not understand. Humans did not forget. Humans did not forgive. Not this time. Not ever. Admiral Tay looked at the map of Valori space on his display screen. Half of it was now marked in red, showing human-controlled territory. The other half was marked in blue, showing what remained of the Valori Empire. The blue area was shrinking every day. Tay touched the photo in his pocket. Sue and Hana smiled back at him from a sunny day long ago. "We're almost there," he whispered. Almost. But he was not sure if he was talking to his daughters or to himself. And he was not sure if reaching the end would make anything better. Some wounds never heal. Some pain never fades. Some darkness, once embraced, never fully lets go. 8 months of war had changed the galaxy forever. The Valori Empire, once proud and powerful, was now a shadow of itself. Half their colonies were gone. Most of their fleet was destroyed. Their people lived in constant fear, waiting for human ships to appear in their skies. Other alien species watched from a distance. They had always thought of humanity as the friendly race, the curious explorers who asked too many questions and smiled too much. Now they saw something different. Now they saw what humans could become when someone hurt their children. Ships began leaving human-adjacent space. Entire colonies relocated to the other side of the galaxy. Species that had ignored humanity for 50 years suddenly wanted to be very, very far away. Admiral Tay received reports of these evacuations and felt nothing. Let them run. Let them be afraid. Fear was a better teacher than words. The Valori Emperor sent a peace delegation to Earth. His name was Toron, and he had ruled for 300 years. He had ordered the attack on Luna 7 personally. He had laughed when his generals told him about the dead children. He was not laughing anymore. The delegation landed in Korea, at a military base surrounded by mountains. General Mira met them at the landing pad. She did not bow. She did not offer her hand. She simply stared at them with eyes that held no warmth. "The Emperor requests an audience with your military leaders," the lead ambassador said. His voice was shaking. "He wishes to discuss terms for peace. 2. Wegram Station. 2. Ask Station. 2. 2. 2. 2. 2. Peace." Mira repeated the word like it was something rotten. "You come to us now, after 8 months of war, and ask for peace. We are willing to offer full reparations. We will pay whatever amount you demand. We will execute every commander involved in the Luna 7 incident. We will—" "Admiral Tay will hear your offer," Mira interrupted. "Whether he accepts it is his decision." The meeting took place in a cold room with gray walls. No decorations, no windows. Just a metal table and 2 chairs facing each other. Tay sat on one side. The Valori ambassador sat on the other. Tay listened as the ambassador spoke. The Valori were offering everything. Money, territory, military secrets. They would give up their entire outer rim of colonies. They would reduce their fleet to 100 ships. They would put their own leaders on trial and execute them publicly. The ambassador spoke for an hour. When he finished, silence filled the room. Tay reached into his pocket and pulled out the photo of his daughters. He placed it on the table between them. "Do you know who they are?" he asked. The ambassador looked at the photo. 2 young girls, maybe 10 years old, with matching smiles and bright eyes. He shook his head. Their names were Sue and Hana, Tay said. They were my daughters. They died on Luna 7. They suffocated while their teachers tried to protect them. The gas your people created filled their lungs and slowly killed them. The ambassador opened his mouth to speak, but Tay raised his hand. I have listened to your offer. Now I have one question. Tay's voice was very calm, very quiet. Can you bring them back? The ambassador blinked. What? Can you bring back 12,000 children? Can you undo what your emperor ordered? Can you give me back my daughters? Silence. No, the ambassador whispered. We cannot. Tay picked up the photo and put it back in his pocket. Then we have nothing to discuss. The delegation returned to Valori Prime with no agreement. Emperor Toron received the news in his throne room. For the first time in 300 years, he felt real fear. Colonel Han's Reapers struck that same night. They bypassed the homeworld's orbital defenses in ways the Valori could not understand. Security systems failed. Warning networks went blind. By morning, the entire defense grid was disabled. The path to Valori Prime was open. Admiral Tay gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. Dr. Yuna was there. Captain Jin was there. General Mira appeared on a screen from Earth. Intelligence reports indicate 2 million Valori children on the homeworld, the briefing officer explained. Concentrated in the northern continent, in educational facilities and family housing. 2 million children. Tay remembered the children on Luna 7. He remembered their bodies lying in corridors. He remembered the silence that followed the attack. The Valori had shown no mercy. Why should humanity be different? Admiral, Jin spoke carefully. What are your orders? Tay looked at the map of Valori Prime. A beautiful world, covered in blue oceans and green forests. Home to billions of Valori. Home to 2 million children who had nothing to do with Luna 7. I need time to consider, he said. Dismissed. That night, Yuna came to his quarters. She looked as tired as he felt. Dark circles under her eyes. Hands that never stopped trembling. The sterilization virus, she said. I have seen the reports from the affected colonies. The Valori are beginning to understand what is happening to them. They know their children will be the last. Good, Tay said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Yuna sat down across from him. I created that virus to punish them, to make them suffer the way we suffered. But now, I look at the reports, and I see Valori mothers holding their children. I see fathers trying to understand why their babies will never grow up. They showed us no mercy. No, they did not. Yuna met his eyes. But we are not them, are we? Tay did not answer. I lost my son, Yuna continued. Nothing will ever fill that hole inside me. Nothing will ever make it better. But I do not want to become what they are. I do not want June's memory to be tied to genocide. She stood up and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back. We wanted them to pay, she said softly. Not to become them. Tay sat alone for a long time after she left. He looked at the photo of his daughters. He remembered their laughter. He remembered the way they ran to hug him when he came home from missions. They had been good girls, kind girls. What would they think of their father now? What would they think of what he had done in their names? The question burned inside him like fire, and for the first time in 8 months, Admiral Kang Tay did not know the answer. Human warships surrounded Valori Prime like a ring of steel. 8,000 vessels floated in perfect formation, their weapons pointed at the planet below. On the surface, billions of Valori looked up at the sky and waited for death. Admiral Tay stood on the command bridge of his flagship. Every screen showed the same image. The Valori homeworld, blue and green and beautiful, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. One order from him, and it would all be fire. His finger hovered over the command panel. All he had to do was press a button. All he had to do was give the word, but he could not move. The faces of his daughters filled his mind. Sue and Hana, laughing in the garden on Luna 7. chasing butterflies, playing in the sunshine. They had been so happy, so full of life. What would they want him to do? Admiral, Captain Jin's voice came from beside him. The fleet is ready. We are waiting for your order. Tay looked at the young captain. Jin had lost his little sister on Luna 7. He had led the attack on Station 9. He had watched Valori scientists suffocate without flinching. But now, even he looked uncertain. 2 million children? Tay said quietly. Jin nodded. Yes, sir. If we do this, we become what we hate. We become the monsters who kill children to make a point. The Valori did not hesitate when they attacked our children. No. They did not. Tay took a deep breath. But my daughters did not die so I could become a monster. They died because monsters exist. And my job is not to join them. My job is to make sure nothing like Luna 7 ever happens again. He turned to face his bridge crew. These men and women had followed him through 8 months of war. They had lost friends and family. They had fought and bled and killed. They deserved to know his decision. I am going to tell you something, Tay said, and I want you to listen carefully. The bridge went silent. 8 months ago, I wanted to burn the Valori Empire to the ground. I wanted them to suffer the way my daughters suffered. I wanted their parents to feel the pain that I felt, and we made them pay. We destroyed their fleets. We took their colonies. We unleashed weapons that will haunt them for generations. He paused. But there are 2 million children on that planet. Children who had nothing to do with Luna 7. Children who are scared right now, looking up at our ships and wondering if they are going to die. Tay touched the photo in his pocket. My daughters were kind. They believed in fairness. They believed that everyone deserved a chance to be good. If I destroy this planet, I betray everything they were. I let the Valori turn me into something my daughters would not recognize. He straightened his uniform. We will not bomb Valori Prime. We will not kill their children. We will find another way. The bridge crew stared at him. Some looked relieved. Others looked confused. Jin simply nodded slowly, something like respect in his eyes. The terms humanity imposed on the Valori were the harshest in galactic history. The Empire was stripped of its military completely. Every warship was destroyed. Every weapon was collected and melted down. Valori soldiers were sent home with nothing. Every official who had been involved in the Luna 7 attack was arrested and taken to Earth for trial. Emperor Torin was among them. He would spend the rest of his life in a prison cell, watching recordings of the children his order had killed. Human soldiers would remain on Valori Prime forever. Not as conquerors, but as watchers, to make sure the Valori never forgot what they had done. And in every school on every Valori world, children would learn about Luna 7. They would learn about the 12,000 human children who died. They would learn about the war that followed. They would learn that their ancestors had committed a terrible crime and that humanity had chosen mercy when they deserved none. Dr. Yuna provided the cure for her sterilization virus. The Valori would be able to have children again. But the cure came with a condition. Every Valori child would carry a genetic marker, a permanent reminder, written into their very DNA, that their species had been spared. That humanity could have ended them, but chose not to. The Galactic Council was dissolved. In its place, humanity established something new. They called it the Solar Covenant, a new alliance where no species was treated as lesser or younger, where every voice mattered, where every child was protected. The first law of the covenant was simple. It was carved into stone at the entrance of the new council chamber on Earth. No child of any species shall be harmed in war. Violation means extinction. There will be no exceptions. There will be no appeals. W9 life. W9. Every species in the galaxy signed. Every species understood what it meant. Humanity had shown them kindness. For 50 years. Then they had shown them wrath. Now they were showing them something else. A new path forward. A chance for the galaxy to be better than it was. 10 years passed. Admiral Tay, now retired, walked slowly through the memorial on Luna 7. The dome had been rebuilt. The gardens grew again. Flowers from 100 worlds bloomed in the artificial sunlight. But in the center of the colony, there was a wall of black stone. 12,000 names were carved into its surface. 12,000 children who would never grow old. Tay found his daughter's names and touched the cool stone. Sue, Hannah. He whispered their names like a prayer. A small hand grabbed his. He looked down at his granddaughter. She was 7 years old, born 3 years after the war. His son's child. She had Hannah's eyes and Sue's smile. "Who were they, grandfather?" she asked, looking at the wall. "They were children," Tay said. "They were taken from us, and we made sure it would never happen again." "Did we win?" Tay thought about the question for a long time. He thought about the war, about the blood and the fire and the screams, about the choice he had made above Valori Prime, about the cost of victory and the price of revenge. "No," he said finally. "Nobody won. But we survived. And we remembered who we are." The little girl did not understand yet. She was too young. But someday, she would. Someday, she would read the history books and learn about what humanity had done, about the darkness they had embraced and the light they had found again. And she would know that her grandfather had stood at the edge of the abyss and chosen to step back. Tay looked up at the stars. The galaxy was at peace now. Not because the aliens feared humanity, though they did. Not because of weapons, or threats, or power, though humans had all of those. The galaxy was at peace because humanity had shown them something unexpected. The capacity for terrible fury, and the wisdom to know when to stop. Some species ruled through fear, some ruled through force. Humanity would rule through